Welcome back to the Global Ledger. I'm Justin. In the last few episodes, we explored how liquidity crises unfold inside developed markets, the US, Europe, Japan, where central banks have deep credibility, strong banking systems, and access to unlimited funding in their own currency. But today, we're turning to a very different environment, a world where the domestic currency is fragile, inflation is persistent. That is the emerging market economies. And we're going to specifically talk about the emerging market dollar crises. And no country illustrates this dynamic, I think, more clearly than Argentina. And that's what we're going to break down today. So let's dive in. Before we talk about Argentina, we really need the framework. The global monetary system is a hierarchy with the US dollars issued by the Federal Reserve, which sits at the top. Next are foreign central banks holding dollar reserves. Below that would be domestic banks borrowing dollars offshore. And then at the next layer of that would be corporates, governments, and households who rely on those dollars indirectly. So if you're in the US, you live at the top of the hierarchy. If you're in Argentina, Turkey, Pakistan, you're at the bottom. And that position comes with really one brutal constraint. Your country needs dollars, but cannot create them. And this is the starting point of every emerging market crisis. So Argentina is one of the most dollarized economies on earth. People save in dollars, they price homes in dollars, they store cash physically in dollars. They don't trust their own currency. And why is that? Because the Argentine peso has collapsed, redenominated, devalued, hyperinflated, and been defaulted on over and over. But here's the key. Dollarization at the household level does not mean dollar control at the state level. Argentina's people hold dollars. Argentina's government does not. To defend the peso, the central bank needs dollar reserves, credibility, and access to foreign funding. But Argentina repeatedly runs out of all three. And when that happens, a crisis is not just likely, it's pretty much guaranteed. So let's look at the crisis trigger, which really is chalked up to a loss of confidence in the local currency. Emerging market crises most always, follow the same pattern. Government debt grows faster than credibility. Foreign investors begin to doubt repayment. Capital inflows slow down. The currency begins to weaken. Locals start buying dollars. The central bank sells dollars to defend the currency. Reserves fall rapidly. The market smells blood. A run begins, not on banks, but on the currency itself. That shift from slow depreciation to full-on panic is driven really by one thing. The moment the country runs out of dollars to defend the exchange rate. And Argentina has hit that moment many times. So let's look at Argentina's crisis mechanics from balance sheet perspective. So let's walk through just a flow of funds. So when the peso weakens, corporates rush to buy dollars to service foreign debt. Households buy dollars to protect savings. Importers buy dollars to keep goods flowing. Exporters would delay selling dollars, expecting a better rate. Dollar demand rises, dollar supply disappears, and the central bank intervenes. But here's kind of the trap. Argentina's central bank must sell its limited dollar reserves into an unlimited demand for dollars. That is not a fight it can really win. So eventually reserves drop to a critical point. Once markets see the central bank is nearly empty, that's when confidence collapses. This triggers parallel exchange markets, FX swap market as well, dislocations there, import restrictions, inflation acceleration, so on and so forth, right? So, and if we look at shadow dollar markets and plug that into this spiral, even when governments try to regulate currency markets, the shadow dollar system always seems to work around them. So in Argentina, people use informal FX shops, right? Crypto stablecoins, offshore accounts, local dollar settled IOUs, cross-border invoicing games, right? So this shadow dollar market becomes the real exchange rate. It signals the true loss of confidence, accelerates devaluation. So basically, the government can set a official rate, but the market sets the real one, and the real one always wins. Like developed market bank runs, emerging market crises are now digital. People can convert pesos to US dollars instantly, wire money offshore from apps, trade FX in minutes, hedge in crypto derivatives, right? The list is long. So Argentina's crisis timeline has shortened from months to weeks to really days. And this is why modern emerging market crises look like explosions, not slow burns. So people often blame corruption, politics, mismanagement, socialism, neoliberalism, IMF, austerity. The list goes on, really. These factors matter, but they miss the central point. Argentina's crisis is monetary before it is political. The country cannot meet dollar obligations with pesos. And because the world settles trade, debt, and savings in dollars, not pesos, Argentina must constantly earn, borrow, or beg for dollars. When those dollars disappear, the crisis begins, regardless of ideology. So here's how the crisis ends, typically. The central bank cannot defend the peso. Inflation accelerates. People abandon the currency. FX controls tighten. Imports freeze. GDP contracts, right? Sovereign default risk spikes. A political reset happens. The only ways out are a credible stabilization plan, a massive foreign support, a functioning export engine, or dollarization itself. And each comes with its cost. But the one thing Argentina cannot escape is the global dollar hierarchy, where it sits at the bottom. Emerging market crises aren't moral failures. They're monetary failures caused by structural reality. Argentina is not bad with money. It is constrained really by a system built around a currency it cannot create. Understanding this can remove some of the stigma and adds empathy, and it can clarify the mechanics and puts the focus on balance sheet math, not politics. And that's what we do here. So I want to thank you for listening to episode 36 of The Global Ledger. Argentina isn't an anomaly. It's the pattern of emerging markets locked into a global system where the most important currency is the one they can't print. In episode 37, we'll look at 10 indicators that predict an emerging market crisis before it happens. Once again, I'm Justin, and thanks for being here.